in some prisons you can be locked up nearly all day. And so for a prisoner, it's hard of any background. But if you're of a traveller background, the separation from your family, the separation from your culture, the separation from just the way you eat, as daft as it sounds, it just adds extra pressure. And that extra pressure is mental pressure. And I think also big events in lives of travellers, if you're not at a baptism, you're not at a wedding, and most painful of all, if you're not with somebody near death or when they've died, they find that very hard. Not to be able to go to a funeral is very difficult for a traveller. Don't act like they're some kind of strange group of people, number one. It can make travellers laugh at that, but it's also kind of offensive. Don't act like they are on a margin, because I'm automatically marginalising them, because it's patronising. So if you're going to speak to travellers, speak to them like you speak to any other person. Expect to be distrusted at first, but the trust will come. Let them know that anything you promise you will do, and if you can't do it, tell them that you can't do it. Don't see it as a burden, and don't see it like you're doing a special job, and don't think that you're wonderful for what you do. You're not. You're just doing something that's right, and realise that you're privileged, that a group of people who, for very good reasons, haven't trusted people over the years are willing to trust you. When that trust begins to grow, they will allow you into their lives. Just work at that. Then they'll tell you about their mental concerns and their problems. And the other thing, that don't be offended if you're going to work with travellers. They are very emotional people. They will fall out with you forever, but they're not falling out with you forever. It's just emotional. Never give the idea that you've based your understanding of travellers on anything you've ever seen on the television or read about in the newspaper. And expect to be ribbed all the time. I've had time with people who have never spoken to somebody and then started to speak to you, and they're much happier people, and they give advice to others. They're much more jolly, they're much more relaxed, they're much more helpful to others. If people begin to talk, they begin to discover ways for themselves to manage. And having discovered ways for themselves to manage, they suddenly feel that maybe they can't help so much the family outside, but they can help other travelling men in prison and other non-travelling men in prison. They can help other people in prison with problems. So you can actually learn a skill that you can share with others. However, a lot of travellers don't identify themselves as travellers in prison. The important thing is to have a reason for them to be positive about being of a traveller background. And a reason to be positive is to have a group which enables the prison service and the criminal justice system to understand the specific and particular needs of travellers. I know a prisoner who would never identify as a Romani man because he was worried it would affect his parole. Eventually, after several years, he started coming to the travellers group when he saw that actually it was beginning to have a positive effect on his chances of moving on. So I think people can see traveller groups as being helpful, number one, socially for them, emotionally for them in terms of support, but also in terms of educating the rest of the prison. And the other thing is, if you have a place that a person can come and let off steam, they don't feel the need to let the steam off on the wings as much. With a traveller, they need ways of being themselves. And I think it's so important that we allow travelling people, of whatever their travelling background, to have a chance to come together. So you've got to actually give travelling people the opportunity to have a space which is their own and where they can begin to talk.
Move along, get along, move along, get along, go, move shifts. Born up a date, a pickin' time, in an old boat tent by a tatty fee.